Hello and welcome back to the Dota 2 Asian Championship 2015 here on HeflaTV 1. I'm Grenus and once again I'll be joined by Mr. Blackadder for Game 2 of a Best of 2 series between CsW and, excuse me, MiTH Trust. Hopefully I'll be joined by Mr. Blackadder. Either way, as far as Game 1 is concerned, very close, down to the wire until about 7 minutes till the end of the game, where MiTH, they just find some really good engagements, and after one pick-off on two heroes where they didn't have buyback, they're able to transition that into a lane of barracks, and off the back of Lakel's anti-mage, which it looks like we're going to see again today, or right now, rather. We've already seen again today, but yeah, we are going to see it. Oh my goodness, I can't speak English. Either way, we are going to have an anti-mage picked up by MiTH Trust here to follow up the Ogre Magi. So going to put their faith in what they've already picked up, and for CsW, it is going to be the Ember Spirit and Tidehunter. Whenever Blackadder is back, hopefully he was just going AFK for a second, getting a little drink of tea or whatever he's doing over there in England, we should be able to have our co-caster back, but for now it is just going to be me. The Ember Spirit was banned out very early on, if I remember correctly, in the slot of the Brewmaster in game number 1, so we are going to see his face today, so let's see how they're going to be able to utilize it. We are going to see, excuse me, the Tidehunter again for CsW, and after 2D's game 1 performance, I definitely can understand that, even though they lost the game, a lot of those team fights during the mid-game were on the back of really good Tidehunter play coming out from 2D. Ravages hitting 3 to 5 heroes, and pretty much every engagement, making sure that they win it whenever they're actually able to utilize that cooldown. And it was really just when they found an opportunity that doing a Ravage really wouldn't do anything, that they lost the game, and that was pretty much it. And even after a really bad early game, 2D's shown us that he doesn't really need that early lane farm to really come back in full force. Next couple bans here, we're going to see Chen and Queen of Pain banned out by MiTH, and Batrider, and we'll see something else banned out by CsW, but for now that's not going to be known to us. The Batrider was untouched in game number 1, and that's pretty peculiar. It is fairly annoying to deal with the Batrider when you have an Ember Spirit on your side, but hey, I hear Mr. Blackadder. Welcome to the call.
Indeed you do. And you know me, if I don't have my tea, I can be a very grumpy caster. It may be a bit stereotypical, I know, but it keeps me going in these games.
Definitely. Well, we do have Mr. Blackadder back, and, well, what's your thoughts on this draft, and any final thoughts from Game 1, I suppose, since you just got here?
Well, Game 1, I'm hoping 2D gets better farm in the early game in this one. He did have a very unpleasant offline, but I believe I heard you saying that just as I sat back down in my chair. I just hope for more brawl-heavy games. That was quite the nice fighting game, the first one, and, well, if we get more like that, I'm happy. You know me. Anyone that watches Hefla know me. I like fights. More fights in the game, the better. I find it more entertaining, and I can work with that. But in this game, well, looking at this draft, I see bans on Avenge and a Batrider. Batrider actually banned this time. Brewmaster banned. I still don't feel like he's really first ban, first pick worthy anymore, but these teams may know something I don't when it comes to the players. However, flip side of the coin for the Radiant lineup in this one, ban out on the Naga Siren, and an anti-mage pickup again. Anti-mage and Ogre. Yeah. I'm wondering what MiTH are thinking. Are they going to really get away with it a second time in a row?
Well, at the very least, the Tidehunter is picked up by CsW, so they aren't going to have the exact same draft. As far as this next couple picks for both sides, I'd like to see Scarlet Mage at the very least considered, or maybe even line, even though both the Ember Spirit and the Anti-Mage have ways to deal with the damage coming up from both of those heroes. Any sort of instant disable is pretty much mandatory. We are going to see the Skywrath for CsW.
Well, Skywrath again, it's going to be there to try to silence out the Anti-Mage, try to stop him blinking around like a madman. How much it's going to actually accomplish, I don't know. But I'm wondering where MiTH are going to go with this one, because if they draft the same as game number 1, I expect Kansai Whips to maybe respond with, say, a Morphling. Morphling Anti-Mage is one of the most classic matchups in all of Dota, let alone Dota 2. I mean, I don't really need to mention much else past TI2 for people to understand what I mean by that. However, if Kansai Whips don't react with a better hard carry, since Slark versus Anti-Mage will tend to win, Kansai Whips could be in a lot of trouble. And with the Axe pickup now as well for MiTH again, they are going to be aggressive, and that puts it lightly.
Definitely. We'll have to see how it works out for them. He's axe, it definitely had its moments, and it definitely had its moments where it wasn't that impactful, but they are going to have another tool at their disposal to just jump in the enemy team, a decent initiation, as well as that burst damage that munches through directly Ember Spirit's Flame Shield, and pretty much everything that CSW have. Everything in the game, bar Lincoln Sphere, I think. And yeah, we'll just have to see how that's going to work out for them. As far as the other support, I definitely think going for Noki's Dazzle again could be a good option, and that just leaves what you pick up for your last pick. CSW going to pick up the Tinker. Either the Tinker or the Ember is going to be thrown in the safe lane farming position. Who do you think it's going to be?
In this kind of matchup, it's going to all depend on what MiTH pick for their mid hero, since I don't think we're going to be seeing a mid ogre, for example. And if I were MiTH, I would be right now thinking, Puck might be a very viable choice here. Same for, say, Queen of Pain, something bursty, something that can deal large amounts of damage, maybe have a bit of control, ideally the Puck, and the silence as well for dealing with the Ember. And, well, Puck up against Tinker, Puck can hold her own quite nicely. Puck up against Ember, you bet on the Puck.
Definitely. It would be a pretty solid way to go about doing things, but they're instead going to go for the Viper. As far as lanes are concerned, probably one of the worst lanes for Ember Spirit, and also for Tinker, not a very happy lane. In fact, there's hardly a hero inside the game that wants to be up against Viper during those first couple minutes of the game. So I can definitely appreciate it, although I would have liked to see the Puck that you were talking about a little bit earlier. Just another way to initiate, because come mid-game, Viper really isn't going to be accomplishing much. Throwing ultimates here and there is a nuisance to the enemy team, and slowing down Ember Spirit's ability to throw out those remnants on top of it all. Yeah, we'll just have to see. I think it's completely acceptable. Last bans are going to come out with Kunkka and Witch Doctor.
Well, the Viper, I can understand early game being a threat, yes, but when it transitions into mid-game and we're having bigger engagements across the board, Tidehunter's going to come in, drop his Ravage, and as Viper has a BKB, he's going to have problems. Puck, if you had, instead of a Viper, could get in Waning Rift, silence the Tidehunter, and importantly, the Ember Spirit. Because how many ways right now do Mistress have of holding an Ember Spirit down? Taunt and Fire Blast. That is it. Sure, if Anti-Mage can get on top of an Ember and burn his mana, everything I just said is null and void. But to stop an Ember just jumping in and out of fights with Sleight of Fist, per se, you need some form of silence or lockdown. That's lacking right now on the lineup for MiTH Trust. And when you look for silence and lockdown, Kansai Whips just picked up one of the better ones. They get themselves the Disruptor.
Yeah, I was about to mention Disruptor for MiTH Trust's side, but it is going to be for them, and it's a pretty darn good way to deal with Anti-Mage's Blink, just having an instant silence to drop down onto him. But the last pick up for MiTH is actually going to be a Zeus. I suppose if you're not going to pick up Lockdown, just pick up so much damage that you're able to burst them down before they're actually able to do anything. This is pretty risky, and I'm not sure if I really like it. Let's see how the support Zeus works out for them.
It's a 4-roll Zeus, and sometimes I can get behind a 4-roll Zeus, but between the burst damage of a Tinker, the silence and control of a Disruptor, considering Zeus has very little ways of escaping, the silence and control of a Skywrath Mage, you see where I'm going with this, and then Ember Guard off the Ember Spirit, who's going to be very tanky up against the magical nukes of Zeus. If I was a betting man, and I tend to be a betting man, I'm going to put my money on Kansai Whips to win this game.
Yeah, I quite like their lineup as well, but let's see. MiTH are definitely not out of this. Let's go over the lineup for them. He going to make a return performance on his axe. This is a lot of these heroes are pretty much repeat from last game. Kaneki going to be playing on the Ogre Magi, and we're going to see Lakels make a reprise on his Anti-Mage. Did a pretty good job in game one, I must say. MyPro going to be playing on the Viper, and Noki on the Zeus.
Of course, for the flip side of this coin, over for the CsW lineup, we've got Musica handling that Ember Spirit. We've got Extinct on the Skywrath Mage. Going to be rounded out by Godot up on this top lane. He's heading up there as well. They're possibly going to threaten for that first bounty rune, but they're going to have quite the bit of opposition for that if they try it. Then over in the mid lane, we do have, of course, Chains handling the Tinker. And if it's going to be a mid lane Tinker up against Viper, that can actually work out for Chains on occasion if he doesn't get harassed too much by those all nasty poison attacks. And finally, we do have 2D reprising his role as the Tide. And I'm hoping, for his sake, we do not get shades of last game in the first 5 minutes. I believe he was level 1 up until 5 minutes 40? Something along that line.
At the very least, it wasn't great. But then again, the next couple minutes of the game definitely made up for that fact. Both teams are currently sitting up towards this top rune spot very aggressively. Ember's the only one showing for the Dire side, and we might be in for a very large level 1 skirmish. Now, walking in, Hehe and company, going to scare pretty much every single hero of CsW away from that rune, securing the bounty for themselves, and Anti-Mage going to get the one down towards bottom, an early advantage for MiTH.
If MiTH Trust can maintain that kind of advantage off the back of getting both bounty runes, the first few minutes could be quite nasty, having that early level 2-on-2 heroes. Can certainly pay off for them, but now I wonder, what are we going to see in terms of the first few minutes of laning? Because Anti-Mage isn't the hero you generally think about when you, say, want an early lane fighter.
Lakel's?
And I was thinking, is Lakel's AFK? But no, he seems to actually be there. You were worried of the same thing, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Like, he was just kind of standing there, not exactly sure what he's doing, but he's definitely here now, so he'll get back to his farming shenanigans.
Hopefully no Curse of the Land, no disconnects, no power cuts. So that happened a good few times at a few that I've cast, so I'm crossing my fingers. No Curse of the Land.
Definitely. We'll have to see if that's going to be the case. At least for now, it's going to look very similar to what we saw in the last game with 2D in this lane, but at the very least, he found himself level 2, and that's more than what we saw in game number 1. Although this time, he's going to take a similar fist fight with the Ogre. This time, he, at the very least, has Kraken Shell at his disposal. He's still not winning out. Kaneki's just giving him the beatdown.
Yeah, this seems very familiar to game number 1, and, well, the Kells are blinking again. They're just being aggressive on 2D, and his Tide is just eating it. There's very little he can do. Then again, look how much pulled regen 2D actually has.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to bother him enough to really get him out of the lane, especially considering Ogre going boots first is not going to have regen to sustain doing that very much. So Tidehunter, he should be able to get his levels, and level 3, yeah, he's doing just fine. For the offlane coming out from MiTH, again, we're going to see the axe go straight towards the jungle. Let's see if the luck is going to be in his favor this time around, and see if he's going to be able to accomplish as fast a blink dagger as we saw in game number 1. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
Fast blink dagger on axe is always quite nice, but he has had a very rough idea of a lane in this case. I mean, an axe versus a tri-lane which involves a disruptor, the axe doesn't want any part of that, so rotating into the jungle is the right thing to do, and he's even stacking up the hard camp as much as possible. So he'll get that burst of gold, but I'm wondering how quick that dagger will be, because memory serves, the fastest blink dagger on an axe I have ever seen was before ASC. It was Matuberman with a 5 minutes 25 second blink dagger.
That's something. I doubt we'll see that this game, but we'll just have to see. For the Tinker build this game around, it is going to be a March Tinker for Chains, and that's pretty standard, although you can do better in lane up against the Viper with a 4-4-0, or some combination of that 2-2-0 and a 2-2-4. He's still going to be doing just fine. This way he is going to have something to fall back on the farm, but just by default, these lanes are going pretty well for the Radiant side, all things considered. 17-2 on the Anti-Mage compared to 10-5 on Musico, which is honestly pretty surprising since he has been left completely alone in this lane.
Yeah, and if he can get enough when he's been left completely alone, that's going to be absolutely glorious for him. But, well, if Music has got complete free farm, you would think Godot and the supports would be rotating around. Do they really fear Noki's Zeus that much on this lane? I mean, part of me thinks the support should just rotate and gang mid as much as humanly possible. I mean, Musica has the time of his life up in this lane, and if he's 1v1 against the Zeus, Ember tends to win.
Yeah, and that's without the early advantage. Right now, Ember Spirit level 4, it's a level 1 Zeus. Noki might be able to get experience here and there, but for the most part, is going to be doing nothing. Honestly, I would have liked to see them maybe throw the Ogre Magi up towards top, but, well, that would also free up the Tidehunter's space, so there's just not really an option for them.
Well, across the board, at least a relatively even spread, you would think. But I look at last hits and quite the edge here for the Radiant lineup here of MiTH Trust. I'm not sure why they didn't get their team name in the lobby. Maybe a slight misclick there, but if they can maintain that kind of CS edge, they could have a better early game, but I'm still looking for the First Blood. The First Blood can decide a good amount. I mean, an early Blink Dagger can come off the back of a First Blood, so could certainly be nice, especially if 2D can get some support and maybe look to kill the Kells, but they need support rotation from at least one of the supports that have the silencers, so either Static Storm or more likely Extinct with the Ancient Seal. I'll get there eventually. It's far, far too early for my brain to function properly.
Yeah, well, Zeus is going to be able to find his level 2 and avoid dying, but the tier 1 tower not going to be so lucky, as that's going to be taken out by canceling whips. Very easy, as they'll just be able to push in with the catapult wave, and that's going to be gone. And, well, Tidehurts are still in the bottom lane. They're not going to be able to do that or replicate that on the MiTH side. So even though the raw CS isn't looking as good for them, they still have a nice infusion of gold, and that's going to keep this early game fairly even for both teams.
And maintaining that kind of even momentum is going to be so important, considering how nasty this can spiral out if a brawl starts. I mean, giving both teams an even footing going into the first fight, I think it'll be incredibly hard to call. I mean, draft-wise, I know I have my edge on CsW, but performance-wise, if they can maintain even footing on gold, I won't be able to call a fight mathematically. It's impossible.
Yeah, it is. Well, right now, both of these two supports, they have picked themselves up a smoke, but Extinct and Godot, not really the best ganking supports, although they have a decent amount of damage from the Skywrath Mage. Not sure where they could actually go with this. Let's see what the plan is going to be. For now, I would really like to see them stack up for the Tinker, in particular these two camps. Even though they have one stack up in the large camp, Tinker can definitely support a little bit more than that. They probably should invest a little bit further.
Well, the faster Chance gets his travels, the better the game he will have, certainly. And, well, he's getting the bounty runes, he's doing what he can, but if he doesn't get stacks, we're still going to be a good few minutes away from his travels. And we need those travels online as quick as possible if you're CsW. They're thinking, Chains needs to start getting this map control going. But if he's delayed, it does give the MiTH Trust team time. And really, if they get enough time for the anti-mage to come online, I could be quite right in saying time is the fire in which they will burn, because the longer this game goes, the bigger Lakel's gets, and there's a Tinker on the other side. So what happens when man avoiding a Tinker or a Skywrath Mage, hell, or a Disruptor? What is going to happen?
It gets really nasty really quick. Disruptor, the lesser of those three.
Oh, 2D.
Oh. He gets caught out completely by Lakel's as well as Gnek. He just caught the tail end of that. Wasn't expecting him to give up the first blood, but just getting a little too comfortable inside that lane. It's something he can do, but he still gets his level 5 and almost level 6 at a decent time. So the trade is there, although the gold in the pockets of Lakel's is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, Lakel's, is he going to really go for the MiTH again?
No.
No, I don't think so. He's going for the Battle Fury. And honestly, that can make more sense considering it's not the 5-minute MiTH that we saw in game number 1, but it's going to mean in the long run he's maybe not as quick in terms of item progression as game 1, but Lakel's is still in a good way. I mean, if he can get a Battle Fury before the 12-minute mark, that's just absolutely golden, and he's already got 1,700 gold, so it is doable, certainly.
Definitely. I think that only time will tell what the progression is actually going to look like. Even if you go for the MiTH on the anti-mage, I think just getting a faster Battle Fury treads might be enough to accelerate your farm to where it's not going to be super meaningful between the two. We'll just have to see how his items stack up to what we saw in game number 1. But for now, he's having a really grand time. Bottom room going to be secured by the Ogre Giant, and Invis for the Tinker coming out from CsW. The Tinker hasn't farmed up his stacks yet, but they have been prepared for him nicely.
Yeah, and if you can get these stacks, that will get him a good way of the way towards his travels. I'm just doing a bit of napkin math. That's about 300 gold there. Where is the other stack? He's got a stack there. That's going to be worth about maybe 200. Not stacking the other hard camp. So we're looking at about maybe a 10-minute routes of travels, I should think.
Yeah. Well, for the Axe, we are going to be well on our way towards the Blink Dagger. It's not going to be slow at all by any means. He is going to be able to get it since he has been left completely alone inside the jungle. Just 1 or 2 more camps till he has the completed Blink at the ready, and maybe he'll look to have one of the supports buy him a smoke. For now, we've been in for a really passive game. The only kill has been that one onto 2D, but now we have the Ravage up, so the ability for a TP Ravage...
you were saying about kills, Lakel's in a bad way. Gets caught out by Musica, but he's going to manage to blink out in time. Still, Musica going to town here. Kanekai will be the next victim. One more right click, and the Ember Guard burn. Musica picks up the kill. Definitely. You jinxed it. You jinxed it.
I really did. Either way, it's going to be a pretty clean kill for the enemy team over here, making the kill score 1-1. At the very least, the kills does survive, and he's going to be able to shimmy his way up towards top, and pretty much has more than half of his Battle Fury already completed, so the kills isn't going to be slowed down much by the rotation. If he died, completely different story. But still, right now, everybody else is looking for the Axe, but the Axe is nowhere to be found, as the Axe has already gone back towards his Fountain, it is going to pick up his Blink Dagger and a TP Scroll.
Well, with the Blink Dagger online, it's going to really be up to he to make some fights happen. Thing is, if he initiates, he's going to need the backup, and what else can we see on the field right now for MiTH Trust? They've got that mechanism onto MyPro, that's going to certainly help out, but they need some damage. Where is this damage going to come from? We've got Thunder God's Wrath now online. Noki could do the work here, and if they can get a Blink onto Chains as Tinker, that could be huge, but I don't think they're going to get it. He's looking for the jump, but with the amount of the machines just threatening all the time, I don't think they can really kill the Tinker.
No, at least for now, that's not going to be the case. If Tinker goes over into his jungle, it could be disastrous for him. But it looks like Chains is just going to shimmy his way back towards base and wait until he has those boots of travel, and is going to avert disaster right now. 3 heroes completely missing off of the map. They aren't showing pretty much anything, and since nobody's farming right here, it looks really sketchy, and, well, good call coming out from them.
I mean, we get 3 heroes missing on the map. That just asks for death. Speaking of death, Chains gets taunted up. Thunder God's Wrath to fly. Mass TP's coming into that mid lane. The dunk's gonna miss though. Chains will die to the Viper Poison Strike, but it won't matter. It's going to be a 1-for-1 Tinker for Axe, and I really value that Tinker kill right about now. Does he have his travels yet? Oh, yes, he does. So it's not as important as I thought it would be, but Noki will still go down, burned to pieces by Musica. Now looking for MyPro, but that's not going to be an easy kill at all. He is far too tanky on that Viper.
Definitely. He is going to be able to cleanly disengage with the haste rune picked up as well, so it's not going to be anything further gained towards either side. As you said, that Tinker kill is really important. I think that was avoidable by Change. I think he did smell something going amiss, but I don't know, just decides against it. He's going to go up towards top and march spam out the lane that the anti-mage was pushing. So Chains is going to be able to pick up the farm, and it doesn't matter as much as it would if he didn't have those boots travel. It's still going to be good for the team all around, since it is just a straight up 2-for-1.
Well, as it stands right now, especially with Musica rotating towards this top lane, potentially we could be looking for a fight, but it is, of course, 3 members of the MiTH Trust lineup ready to brawl up here. So can CsW really afford to take a fight up here when you're up against, say, Lekels as well as Kanakai and Hihi? That's your initiation and damage backed up by the support of the Ogre, all it wrapped up into one. Musica going to go high ground, looking for the anti-mage, and they're not actually going to fight this one. It's a 3v3, and they're just going to get the hell out of dodge. Can Lekels get out? No, he can't. He actually gets caught. This is really bad for Lekels. Oh, holy hell.
Yeah, very close to his Battle Fury as well. Just getting those chains to cancel out TP is going to lose quite a large sum of gold. In fact, he was double digits of gold away from completing up that broadsword and the full Battle Fury over at the side shop. Could have been really crucial, but that's a huge pickup for Kansai Whips, and they're starting to put things together. Although the Ember Spirit doesn't have the greatest amount of farm, he's been involved in plenty of kills and is keeping up admirably with everybody else. For now, it looks like we are just going to be in for a Tinker-style Dota game. We are going to just push out all of these lanes simultaneously as down towards bottom. We potentially look for a pick-off onto the Ember Spirit.
You know, I've missed this kind of Tinker. No, I haven't. Not at all. These kind of long Tinker games used to really tick me off in 6.81, and I thought we had seen the last of it, but this is very 6.18-ish style of draft coming out of CSW.
Like bottom, ultimate onto the Tinker is going to cancel it. The Zeus ultimate flying through, but it's just not enough damage. Klaus blinks forward. He just needs a little bit more before they can kill off this Tinker. Dunk, decapitated by the axe, and is going to make Blackadder happy by taking off that mechanical rat.
Yep. You know how much hatred I have for rat style play. It just gets under my skin for some reason. Stand and fight, don't run around and kite.
Well, it is going to be a jump potentially onto Kellis. They're going to glimpse him back very quickly after the blink, and he's going to walk straight through a static storm, drop down by Kansai Whips. And even though they get that Tinker pick off, still Kellis not having as great a game as we saw in game number 1. Although he completed his Battle Fury before that, that's about a half a minute of farming time lost, as well as almost 300 gold.
They're keeping Lekels down at the point where he wants to finish off his Battle Fury as quick as possible. He did actually buy the broadsword there, so he will have it when he respawns, but they're killing him at the important point. The longer it takes for that Battle Fury to come online, the better it is for CSW. And it does buy Chains time, and time for a Tinker.
He's going to be caught out by a blinking axe as well as by Kaneki. They'll be able to bring him down. Musica's over on the sidelines, but can't find anything from that. Going to be a pretty clean pickup onto the Scarth Mage after a smoke.
Yeah, time for that Tinker, though, is what they're buying with all of these kills. If they can get more kills onto that AM, they're buying time for Tinker to get that Blink Dagger, to get the Dagon or Sheepstick that the Tinker's going to opt for. However, the pickoffs that MiTH Trust are finding, especially if he can get 1 or 2 more culls, he's going for the Blade Mail, so he's going to probably try to stand in the march just to cause Tinker problems.
Yeah, it's definitely very annoying. For now, we are just kind of chilling. The March spam coming up from the Tinker is getting him ever close to that Blink Dagger, although he would like to go for either just straight up damage in the Dagon or Sight the Vice eventually. It's right now where he just kind of needs to transition those items and get towards full Tinker status. Although Boots of Travel is kind of that opening, it's not really until you get the Blink where you can pretty much play inside the tree line 100% of the time to keep yourself safe. And really, the tools that MiTH have to catch out that Tinker are pretty limited. Zeus Ultimate's probably one of their best ones. Zeus Ultimate, then a Blink Initiation from the Axe to follow up.
I can see that working out, yeah, certainly. But the problem is how evasive that Tinker can be regardless. I mean, if he doesn't fight in the tree line, then he can just try to run away from that kind of thing, unless they've got the slow there from, say, the Viper, or the stun from the Ogre. I mean, Blink Axe initiation's all well and good, but are you really Blink Axing for a Tinker when there are things like an Ember Spirit running around, or a Tide who can get a Ravage? It's a very hit or miss kind of engagement if you try to Blink onto the Tinker.
Speaking of Tides and Ravages, have we even seen one this game? 2D, he's gotten a decent amount of farm, but really hasn't been able to find any openings to drop that ultimate.
No, he hasn't. We haven't seen a single Ravage, but he'll have his Blink Dagger online in less than 400 gold. So once that comes online, he can get that positioning he wants, but it seems we're going to get a mid-fight breakout. He gets caught into Static Storm. He's going to go down. Musica gets the kill on that one. Now they're going to look for Kanakai. 2D gets stunned up, but Mystic Flare is going to drop on Kanakai with that Anchor Smash. Is going to be more than enough, and now they're going to turn on to MyPro. There is just no escape. 3 easy kills the way of CsW, as well as a denied tower.
And in the meantime, Tower Down towards bottom, I think, was killed off by Creep, so nothing but wins for Can't Say Whips, and that is your Blink Dagger up for 2D, as well as the Blink Dagger up for the Tinker. Really just an awkward place for them to fight, getting caught completely off guard. I'm not even sure if that's off guard, but just in an awkward situation. Up towards top, Lakel's going to need quite a chunk of damage from the combo coming out from the Tinker, and in the meantime, they kill up the Zeus with Musica, and Musica should be able to get out of here, especially with the glimpse onto the Ogre Eye. Musica is completely fine to retreat.
Yeah, they can, and it's Musica finding the pickoffs on the Zeus. The Zeus really has no escape right now. He is so squishy. He's going to be the easy target for Musica to get some easy feed off of, for lack of a better word. And we consider what Musica's got item-wise. He's gone Phase Drum. He's got 2,400 gold. This is going to be most likely a rotation into, say, a Battle Fury and looking to just cleave the enemy down. There's the perseverance that we were looking for. And honestly, Musica can farm up very quickly. And he's looking for, say, a threat in the forest. He's thrown a Remnant back. Is he really thinking about going across the river here? I mean, what can he find if he does? He'll find Kanakai and Hiki, but Lakel's there as well. This could be a very rough time, as there's the taunt onto Musica, who picked up the Haster, and it was picked up by the Ember. So if he can get out of here, that would be perfect. There's the zip away, and, well, Musica has none of it. And he even gets the Haste rune, so next fight could certainly be decided by that rune.
I definitely think that Remnant drop down was just so that he could have that panic button to get back towards his Remnant once he's going for that rune. Because we already saw that that's all that they have to lock down the Ember Spirit before he's actually able to activate that Remnant is the Call and the Fire Blast. Outside of that, there's really not anything. The Anti-Mage isn't bringing the damage to the table yet. Once he has the Mantis Style, maybe, but inside the jungle, there is going to be a fight as they find out He drop down with one more Arcane Bolt. They will be able to get that kill and now look for a little bit more. Garth Mage in the front lines, they shouldn't be able to find anything immediately. Well, let's just see. It's still more momentum for Can't Say Whips, and they still have this Ravage. If they can find it, could be disastrous. And it looks like they might be able to find the jump concussor shot landing onto MyPro. They will be able to slow him down. Jump in, Ravage going to commit it, and it's going to land directly onto 2. Kaneki going to drop first, and now MyPro is going to focus down. He turns to the ultimate, dropping down Extinct low, but with the Mystic Flare drop, it is going to be a 1-for-1 trade. As far as those two heroes are concerned, Scarth Mage going to give him his life for the greater good. And Can't Say Whips are now at the front door of this Tier 1 tower in mid.
And off the back of that, they should find that easy Tier 1 tower, and CsW starting to just throw their weight around a little bit. They're starting to come online with that Tinker. He's got that Blink Dagger. He's continuing to throw wave after wave of March into towers, so that can do some work. After this, I'm thinking possibly a Dagon look for the burst damage to try to short out the life of, say, the Axe or the Ogre. The other one is, of course, Noki. He could be an easy target, but on the flip side of the coin, over for the MiTH Trust lineup, they do have the Anti-Mage going for a BKB after the Battle Fury, so he's not going to be going for that Rushed Manta. There's going to be really no nuclear mana breaks, but now in comes the rotation. Extinct, going to get brought down by Lakells with one more right-click, and it seems it's time to do some Ancients.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good time to do them as well, even though they're blocked. Jumping from Ember Spirit, potentially. He has Remnant on the ground, going to spot out pretty much everybody, trying to steal a couple of these creeps. Silence going to be dropped by the Disruptor, going to catch out too. They'll bring down the Anti-Mage and out to Knexki. They are going to focus him down, Chains dropping low. The Viper will be able to clean up this kill before he's able to get out to safety, but MyPro is probably going to lose his life as well. Glimpse back short range into a kinetic field. They have the Axe on the sidelines, but he can do nothing but watch his teammates fall, and they'll mop up one more of these large creeps. They had insult to injury in a 1-for-3 trade.
Most important thing, though, is that MiTH Trust did manage to get the majority of their stack. That kind of difference when it comes to getting the stack versus not getting the stack is fairly large. That was quite the amount of gold for the Anti-Mage and the Axe, so that will at least help them out in the short run. But we do have that Blade Mail online for Axe now, and it seems the CSW lineup, they're going to have to move away, maybe look towards Roshan. It is doable for them, and if they take the Roche, they can then start to throw their weight around that a little bit more. Music could start to get a little bit more aggressive, but no, they're not going to opt for the Roshan yet. And I'm wondering where we're going to see the resurgence from when it comes to the MiTH Trust lineup. MiTH Trust are not out of this by any stretch of the imagination. It's only a 3k gold lead graph-wise in favor of CSW, and the same for experience. So certainly, there is potential for a MiTH Trust resurgence and comeback, but they do need to deal with a certain few things first. First of all is that Tinker. They need to kill it outright. Second of all, they need to at least get a good initiation onto the Tide or burst down Musica. They have two options. Control the Tide or go on Musica and kill him before the Tide can react. They really don't have much other option other than that.
Yeah, they really don't. One of those targets needs to fall inside the team fights or things just look really sour for them. Ravage online again for CSW, as well as a 4-staff newly completed on the Tidehunter. They can go for some pretty aggressive objectives. Tinker going to TP out at top after putting some pressure onto the tier 2 tower there. But with everybody with their eyeballs up towards this top lane, Ember Spirit's pretty safe to farm down towards bottom. So the map is being spread out by CSW quite nicely, whereas MiTH kind of have to commit pretty much everybody if they want to hope to take a fight or find kills.
Yeah, very true, but I think the important thing to mention here is Battle Fury now online for their Ember, so they can start to look to fight with that massive cleave, and I think it's going to be a very important thing to keep an eye on, but they're not going to force the issue up onto this top lane. They're instead going to fall back and just force the TPs out, then look to rotate around the map. This does buy, of course, more time for Lakells' Anti-Mage back on the Ancients, and he's continuing to farm up. He is going for that BKB as far as I can see, and with a BKB, he'll be able to fight through the Ravage. The Ember will have a lot less impact on him per se. The Chains won't be able to hold him. And from there, I should think we'll be looking for a Manta after the BKB, to which the Skyreth Mage and the Tinker are going to have to be very fearful for their lives.
Definitely, and even the heroes that are close to them. And honestly, not too close to them. The AoE on Mana Void is quite impressive, so we'll have to see if that's actually impactful throughout this game. But we kind of have stalled out a little bit. Down towards bottom, Tinker able to TP away from the Axe. Although he is going to take some damage in return, the Axe probably looking a little bit worse for wear, and he's going to be sent all the way back to base. Whereas Tinker is going to have the rearm boots of travel to get back up to a reasonable amounts of health. Jane's going to be working towards the Scythe of Vice first on this Tinker, and he's going to have that up at a decent click. Currently just sitting on the Blink as well as the Ultimate Orb on top of the Boots of Travel. But up towards top, we have a Smoke from CSW.
And a full 5-man rotation as well. They've got Chains in the tree line and Musica pushing. So we're going to need to see some kind of response here from MiTH Trust, and it needs to be more than, say, only the Axe, considering there's 3 smoked heroes in the sidelines. And this is a very sneaky place to go, because whoever comes up here won't see the smoke, and then they'll get jumped from the side by the rest of CSW. But it seems the smoke's going to time out, and, well, they can't really risk hanging around for too long, because the longer they hang around, the more time it is for MiTH Trust to realize, yeah, something fishy is going on here. But now he going to be in a bad way. Does get the taunt combo off, but I don't think he's going to be able to survive this. No, he will fall to the Ravage. Tootie is in a bad way as well. He's going to have to fall back. But still, you'd have the Ember on the sidelines just chewing through Micro with the Tinker, getting those rockets in as well. It's an unstoppable spree for Musica, and this just feels like such a strong showing from CsW in this game. And we could easily be going to a game 3, I believe, at this rate.
Well, definitely. We'll have to see how this actually works out for them. I think this is best of 2s, but it very well may be best of 3s. If it is best of 3s, the schedule is incredibly tight. So let's all see how this all works out. Either way, all they lose for that last engagement for CsW is the Skyrath Mage, and almost kill off Lakel's to boot if the kinetic field was just a little bit closer to keep him inside the silence coming out from the Disruptor. Fire Blast, attempted by the Ogre, is going to be stymied by a Fire Blast away. They are going to be able to glimpse down the Axe, but yeah, it doesn't actually help because the Disruptor's dead on impact. They'll be able to dunk him down, making things all said and done a 2 for 2.
A okay exchange in the long run, I suppose. Being able to bring down the Disruptor for a little bit of tail end bonus, but they need to really find more. And in this game, I don't think that Noki's juice is really having the impact that MiTH Trust need in this game.
Down towards bottom, they find a jump onto Musica. They'll be able to bring him down before he's able to Remnant away. Honestly, didn't see if he had a Remnant out. There's one on cooldown, but I think that was from the previous fight, so very risky place for the Ember to be, and he's going to be punished heavily for it.
Apparently it is best of 2s. I was informed it was best of 3s, so my bad, apologies. So we'll see how this game breaks out. I suppose that would make sense considering it's standings based right now, but honestly, I wonder what MiTH Trust were thinking in the draft with this Zeus.
Yeah, definitely. The Zeus hasn't really accomplished much at all. 0, 2, and 5. Noki has been able to drop his ultimate here and there, but I think just anything that would have offered more CC for the Ember Spirit in particular would have been useful. If you want a nice mix of damage and CC, Lion was available, and could have been a pretty solid choice.
Yeah, and Lion, I don't know, Lion to me, it just feels like a better option here. Hex, instantaneous, they've got more than enough control from the Earth Spike, and then the burst damage from Finger of Death. Zeus, sure, just lots of damage, really. He doesn't really do anything other than damage. I don't know, Lion versus Zeus, I much prefer the idea of a Lion.
Definitely. Well, only time will tell if that's actually a better option for them. The Anti-Mage is still farming well, and that's pretty much just saving grace. They're sitting on a 10-second B, if I'm not mistaken, on Lakel's. It's actually 9-second, that's right, he used it in the previous fight inside the Static Storm, so they do have a lot more room to grow. The Mantis Style, Basher, Butterfly Heart, all these big ticket items for Lakel's to pick up, so there's still plenty of time for them to stall out without really fearing for this game. But then again, CsW also have quite a lot of scaling heroes, and the power of late game Double Ravage in particular is not something that can be underestimated. Chains now with the completed sight device is going to be able to consistently keep Lakel's down inside the fights where he's not able to do anything, especially if they find a jump onto him first. And speaking of jumping in mid, he is going to find a jump onto Extinct, but hexed up immediately. And now Noki dropped low. That's going to be the Zeus, the first one to fall. The Skyrath Mage is dropping low and should be able to survive to that Battle Hunger. It's only level 1. Double kill from Musica as he mops up the Axe with another Sleight of Fist as they look for Kaneki. They'll be able to silence him back up. The Ravage connecting on to pretty much everybody that's still left inside this fight. Micro silenced up, and Lakel's can do nothing as he's the only one alive on his team.
Yeah, Lakel's just cannot find the impact he needs. He doesn't have that Manta. He doesn't have any of the big ticket items. The BKB, sure, it's necessary in this game, but it still feels like its second item BKB may be a little bit too early in the BKB, if that makes any sense. Having the Manta first into a BKB would have him have a bit more impact. Sure, he would need to be very careful with his positioning, but if he can Manta through certain things, then he should have been fine. Still, though, it'll be a Roshan for the CsW lineup, and, well, if they can get the Roche, that will certainly help out. But Lakel's actually going aggressive with the Thunder God's Wrath dropped as well by Noki. If they can finish off Musica, that would be absolutely perfect, and the Mana Void will clean it up. So Lakel's is still fighting fairly well. I suppose I can eat my words, but now in comes Chains, and this is the problem. When the BKB runs out, he is just so susceptible to damage. Just the Chain sight device out of Chains, and that no pun intended there, but is pretty much it over for an anti-mage once the BKB expires.
Definitely not anything he'd do at that point. It's going to be a 1-for-1 trade, and a pretty even one, all things considered. Although it looks really good to get that single pick off onto the Ember Spirit, it's going to give AM a lot of levels. it's pretty much just as good for the Tinker. Now sitting at level 16, he is able to keep that anti-mage down pretty much non-stop with the Scythe devices we've already seen, and things are going to get better for him. He's been forced to use both the 10 and 9 second BKB charges, and once it's down to 5, that's honestly just not enough. Even if he's able to block one of the Tidehunter Ravages, eventually we'll be dealing with a refresher on 2D, as he's going to be working on towards that with the Perseverance, so things are not all sunny for the side of MiTH Trust, as CsW is starting to get control over this game.
Yeah, but now in comes the CsW lineup. Oh, the Tinker was threatening there, but the catapult being destroyed stopped that kind of initiation on that top lane. But, well, pressure here from Musica as well as the threat of the supports. So maybe looking for a top lane push or at least getting momentum there. And I should think what you were saying about the BKB, it only being 5 seconds could be a problem. When it's at 5 seconds, he only has one recourse. Blink in, Manta, kill Tinker. Or blink in, Manta, kill Disruptor. Ideally both, if he can get them close enough.
Definitely. Well, we are going to have a group up from CsW. They're all spotted out by that Zeus ultimate. That means the Exchange and Godot do have to go back very deeply. And we also didn't really talk about it, but that's an Aghanim Scepter complete up on your Disruptor, so BKB might not even be able to come out if the silence is fast on the fingers coming out from Godot.
Yeah, it all come down to how quickly Godot can really react, doesn't it, in the long run? But I partly wonder if Godot in this case would not consider, oh, he actually already has. I was about to say the full Aghanims. If he can get that Aghanim's Disruptor ult off, then it might all be over for the MiTH Trust lineup. That is such a nasty thing, AoE Doom.
It definitely is. After this, I think a Blink Dagger could be in line for the Disruptor, but pretty much he's completely online at this point. Aghanim Scepter is pretty much all you can hope for, and what's really important in this game. CsW going to put some pressure down towards bottom. They might be losing a tier 1 tower up towards top, but that one was already pretty darn low, and they should be able to take this tier 2. Their fighting potential at this point is just a little too scary for MiTH to wholeheartedly want to fight into this, unless they have all of their forces, that is.
It's going to be a very rough time for him, certainly, but, well, threat of that bottom tier 2 from CsW. We need some kind of response from MiTH, really. They can't just afford to really sit and let towers fall, you would think, but Lekels is using this time as best he can. He almost has his Manta. Of course, he's going to have a Manta with no buyback at this rate, so he's going to have to be very careful in these fights. One false move, and it could all be over for MiTH Trust in this game.
Blink away from he's going to keep him safe as he goes towards mid. Tier 2 tower there is also not looking too healthy, although this one's going to be denied out by the Zeus and company's Axe is going to take that away from CsW, but that's all of the outer tier towers from MiTH Trust's side, and CsW have plenty of structures on their end of the map. Lekels just needs a little bit more, and BKB now up for the Ember Spirit. The biggest difference is that this BKB is actually going to allow him to fight very effectively. All he has to worry about is the call, and the physical damage just isn't there yet.
As we said in the draft, it just doesn't feel like there's enough control completely. Ooh,
never
that
mind.
that was a bit of a fat finger 10-second BKB. I don't think we... You know what? We didn't see that. He's still got a 10-second BKB charge. We just did not see that.
Well, who didn't see it is the Radiant side of the map, as they didn't have any ward vision over that BKB, so as far as they're concerned, it's still out.
Yeah, true. That's still, as far as they're concerned, there's a 10-second BKB, unless the map's over in C. But I do wonder. What the ultimate goal here is for MiTH Trust, considering their lineup isn't really control heavy and they're losing these fights to the control lineup of CsW. So what can they do? Can they get a pick off? Speaking of pick offs, Noki. Well, not really much Zeus can do here.
They're lucky that they didn't find the Kells as well. He was farming very close to that one. He does have his Manta style completed, but yeah, easy pickings on the Zeus. Not much you can do at that point. No mobility items up, although he'd love to have a 4-staff Yules or whatever that staff of wizardry is there. For it's not completed, and it's not going to be completed for quite a long time. They'll invade the enemy jungle and deny a little bit of farm away from the Kells in this fashion, and they don't lose any control of the map on the other sides because they have the Tinker. They constantly go out. Actually, Tinker, he has a Perseverance. Really, the only logical conclusion for this one is Lincoln Sphere, although it doesn't get refreshed. What are your thoughts on this? I don't like it. I think it's abysmal.
No, surely no.
Battle Fury Tinker?
No, that does not
Tinker?
work. That does not work. It has to be the Lincolns and Lincolns. What can Lincolns really block? Because it's going to block. It's going to block Mana Void or block Viper Strike. There's not really much else single target. I suppose.
Fire Blast.
Actually, no.
Thunderbolt,
There is a
Chain
good few
Lightning.
single target things. There's too many things that can really pop it. I don't like
Yeah.
this at all.
No, neither do I.
But-
Yeah, I'm lost for words. Bloodstone would make more sense, but that's not how you build a Bloodstone. Yeah.
No, not anymore. At least I don't know. Did CsW maybe take a lesson from EG? Trying to throw the game, maybe.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be damning. Even if he does sell it, it's only 800 gold lost, which, although it's bad, don't get me wrong, it's not the end of the world, so... We'll see what the plan is for this. Maybe it's just super next level mind games? I don't know. I try to...
Trying to reason it. I mean, I'm not going to shoot it down. It just doesn't feel like a Lincoln's is going to do enough in the long run, to me at least. But anything can work. I mean, we could be completely wrong. It's the full Lincolns, and well, I do say unorthodox a lot of the time is the line between genius and sanity, so we'll see here. But now they're going to try to go onto He. The Thunder Gods falls, but the Kells is on the sidelines here. In comes the attempt on 2D's life, but 2D's going to just force stuff away. This is quite the good turn of events here for CsW. They've got the Manta on cooldown now. They could look to fight. Sleight Fist is going to start dropping, and they keep the creep wave at least relatively dealt with. And it's just going to be back to that standoff. Anti-Mage back up to farming, and what's he going to build next, I wonder? He's at 1800, 1900 gold. What do you go next on this Anti-Mage? He's got his Manta. Do you go for Butterfly, or do you go for, say, Abyssal Blade to really deal with this Tinker?
I think you kind of have to go for Abyssal, and that makes the Lincoln Sphere make a little bit more sense. The Blink Abyssal initiation coming out from Lakel's, maybe he's just guessing that he's going to be going for that, and that does make it look a lot more attractive.
I suppose, and just going to take a comment out of chat. I like the fact that Blake Stoll, he turned around and said that BKB was for the anticipated Zeus ult. Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in the meantime, CsW going to go for the Roshan, and they'll be able to take this pretty easily. Chain and picking him down, and, well, Roshan just didn't know what hit him. He's going to be able to do literally nothing as he sits here as a big pig, and he's going to be turned into ham, as Music is going to snag an Aegis with nothing in return taken by MiTH Trust. They just don't really have the ability to push out lanes fast enough to put pressure on CsW.
Yeah, I suppose that's the big problem when you're up against a Tinker. You can't really threaten the heavy split push like you would normally at threat of getting caught with, say, the Scythe of Vice and just be hexed up to death. I mean, normally Lakel's and an anti-mage would be just looking to split push all the damn time. Just force fights as much as possible. Then again, speaking of forcing fights, CsW can now do that. They do have that double refresher ready to go. And, well, double ravage ready to go. It's too early. It's like 5 AM here. Give me a break.
Well, it is going to be pretty good for CsW, and even though, as far as the raw numbers are concerned, it's not a huge advantage, their ability to fight feels like it's just so much greater. Let's see if MiTH are going to be able to pull things together. I think it does rely on Anti-Mage's next item. If this is anything but an Abyssal or Basher, I'm not sure they're going to have the damage to really take these engagements, unless CsW find themselves making huge mistakes. We do have that BKB backup for the Ember Spirit, as that has come off of cooldown, and it's only going to be there for 9 seconds, although it's more than enough to do his damage inside the fights.
Yeah, Chains could be actually caught out here. Mantis going to fly. They're going to pop all of the damn spells and abilities here. They've used the Disruptor's Static Storm. They used Thunder God's Wrath, and ultimately, nothing happened.
Yeah, they didn't catch the Anti-Mage inside that Static Storm. He didn't pop the BKB preemptively, and in the meantime, they're going to find a pick-off onto the poor Skyrath Mage. My goodness, obliterated. But here comes Ravage number 1, Ravage number 2 going to be unloaded onto all 3. They bring down 1, they bring down Lakel's, and now in a He, they are going to munch. They have the BKB activated on the Axe as he tries to TP home. That is going to succeed. Buyback from the Anti-Mages. They also clean up the Zeus on the sidelines. Chains going to be able to bring that one home, but still, ooh, and the Void almost canceling that TP from the Tinker. Actually, yeah, it would have canceled a TP. They brought off the Lincoln Sphere previously.
Yeah, you were checking the same thing I was, just at threat of that, but now in comes the Tinker once again. Chains looking to just threaten from the jungle. Someone really needs to make me a kill the rat emote on Twitch. Just a rat in crosshairs. That would just make me happy. I hate rats.
Well, right now he's with the entirety of his team. They'll put some pressure down in the mid lane. They're going to chunk down MyPro with a handful of harassing spells with the rockets as well as those chains, and they'll just start chipping away at this tier 3 tower. Right now, there's nothing else that MiTH can do but sit inside their base and hope for the best. At the very least, they're not worrying about a double Ravage since that was previously used. But to great effect, it forces out that AM buyback, which is, at this point, pretty damning for them. They need this AM to get more damage, and that's just not going to be on the table. It's going to be another 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, they need to buy the anti-mage more time. Still, you're going to be going potentially uber late game up against a Tinker, double Ravage, AoE Doom, for lack of a better word, and, well, King Cleave Musica. So it's going to be a hard game nonetheless.
It really is, but they're definitely still in it. Let's see how things are going to shake down. As far as the next item for our Ember Spirit, it is going to be Daedalus, already completing up the small crit, and he is going to have the big crit flying out to him if he wants it. And Forsaking Buyback is a valid choice, especially since he has the Aegis inside his inventory to make sure that he isn't completely caught off guard if he dies.
Certainly. And now, well, I'm wondering what the next port of call really is for the MiTH lineup. Can they really try to get a pick off, say, on 2D, or do they just play around Lakel's AM here? Do they protect the AM at all costs? Because Lakel's had to use his buyback there, and this is going to cause all manner of problems. Because if Lakel's falls in the next fight, it might be GG.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Right now in CsW, they're going to have one Ravage at the ready, but the second Ravage is going to be on cooldown for 40 seconds till they have that Refresher Orb up. But they are going to find themselves MyPro, forced to pop the BKB. They slow down Musica. He's going to be force-staffed out. With a little help from his friends, he is going to be just fine, but with the double damage Ember Spirit, not something you're going to be fighting to as the enemy team. He actually decided to hold back on delivering that Chrysalis. He wants to fold Daedalus. Unfortunate there, but still, they'll be able to take down this tier 3, presumably, is right now. MiTH aren't in any real position to fight.
No, they're not, and honestly, MiTH need, I don't know, they need to either get a pick-off or they just need the stars to align. Considering Ravage is up, the Refresh is going to be up in 8 seconds, they shouldn't fight now, but they need to defend this tower in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, Remnant going to pop by the Ember Spirit. They're going to exercise a little bit of caution, waiting for the next creep wave. They still have that Aegis, however, and CsW, they are going to have that double Ravage now, so the time is right.
The time is right, and they need something, and now in comes the Blink Core, but it's going to miss. Now in comes Ravage number 1. Ravage number 2, ready to fly, and there it goes. They're buying all of the time in the world to bring down Lakel's, and Lakel's does not have a buyback now. That's a pretty major thing, but Musica does take a lot of damage. Not going to be in coal range, however, and now MyPro is the victim of the mass sheeping, as all the bacon in the world, and Noki will be the next to fall by the looks of things, and well, Musica on a triple. This is just a complete show of domination coming out of CsW. Double buyback, however, by the lineup from MiTH. They want to keep this going as long as they can. They need to buy time, however, for that anti-mage to come back online. If they get diebacks now, I really would not want to be in their shoes. Ogre's going to buy back as well. That's a triple buyback. They need to make this work now, and Chains is just continuing the relentless onslaught of machines. And just look at how many marches are going on. That's 3. Tier 2-3 is going to fall as well, and now they're going to start cracking on the racks.
Or not. They are going to fall back right now, at the very least. They are going to have that next big damage item up for the Ember Spirit. And he has the option to buy Boots of Travel if he really wants to, but no, he has a Remnant back in this fight. And with the Tinker back up, now they're going to move towards that bigger objective with still 40 seconds down on the AM. They don't really have much to fear coming out from them because the other heroes just don't have the farm to pay the bills. Viper's the highest farming hero, and we already kind of touched on in the draft, although he's tanky. He's not able to actually threaten the enemy team. They're going to take ranged barracks, focused down by Ember Spirit, and everybody else is going to do pretty quick work of the melee barracks. They can take their time as long as they take their time in the next 20 seconds.
Yeah, once the anti-mage comes back online, this could turn, considering we do have a bit of mana expenditure across the board. There's a walking bomb in terms of Tinker right now. He needs to sort of refuel his mana before the AM gets back on the field, but well, all of those marches, no one really wants to stand in that unless you've got 5 blade mails, and that's not going to happen here. So they're going to lose their tier 3 and racks in the mid lane, and well, they need time. MiTH really need to buy time. They need to make space. But that is an incredibly tall order, and that mountain is getting incredibly harder to climb. If we look at the gold lead, that's a 25,000 gold lead. Sure, I've seen a comeback from a 25,000 gold lead maybe once or twice before, but do we think MiTH can do it in this game?
Honestly, I'd say no. Right now, they just need everything to work perfectly for them. And by perfectly, I mean CSW can't use the tools at their disposal in these next couple of fights because they just need more time. Maybe if they get the most lucky of all bashes, they can take some engagements, but we'll just have to see. It's going to be a long and hard road for them. This anti-mage, at this point, you'd like to be 6-slot and you'd like to be pushing down the enemy team's base. And he's starting to really fall off when you compare him to the Tinker as well as the Ember Spirit. It looks like we're in for an E-Blade for this Tinker, and that's freshly picked up. Although they don't have the Dagon to follow it up, we have the Static Storm, we have the Skywrath Mage. There's plenty of magic damage to back that E-Blade up, and even just in itself, really annoying for the Anti-Mage to deal with since he is already down. Or rather, no, he hasn't been able to get off the BKB in the last couple of fights because of Disruptor ultis, so scratch that. He has a decent timing on the BKB, but still, if they get the Blink Scythe or the Disruptor ulti onto him, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if the initiation goes straight onto that AM, really, MiTH can do nothing. However, CSW, they're going to start threatening once again. They're going to push this bottom lane in. And if they can get this second set of racks, I don't really feel comfortable for MiTH at all. Hell, I don't feel comfortable for MiTH now. And just look at this. The march starts all over again, and this relentless pressure resumes. Shiva's Guard now online for Tide, so double Ravage, double Shivas. It only gets worse for MiTH.
Yeah, it definitely does. Tinker back, refreshed and rearmed, ready to go in this bottom lane. And yeah, here goes the marches. This is going to be a constant thorn in the side of MiTH. Their Anti-Mage is stuck inside their base, and it's not a place where Lakelz really wants to be. They're going to smoke up, look for the wraparound. If this doesn't work, they might as well call GG, but let's see. Best of hopes for MiTH as they look for the big plays, and maybe, just maybe, they can focus down one of these key targets, and pretty much they need to focus down everybody. Skywrath Mage may be excluded, but even the Sky is pretty important for CSW. Let's see. Hee going to be leading the charge, looking for the Blink Call, but in the meantime, they get the Ravage on the 2, obliterating the Zeus and the Viper. They have a Refresher Ravage as they jump in, they get the call on the 2. They might be able to focus down Extinct, but not enough mana has been burned to actually get the ultimate value. They are going to bring down Dota as well. Both of the supports are off the table. E-Blade defensively onto the Tinker, going to keep him alive, but then the ultimate coming out from the Lakelz is going to be returned, but not enough to bring him down. Dunk 1 onto the Tinker, but a buyback and Boots of Travel in is going to put an end to that. And Anti-Mage, without buyback, this might just be it, as they're going to lose all 5, making a full 5-man wipe with no buybacks available, and I think they've done it. CSW going to win game 2.
Musica just went completely off the chain in that one, and well, Chains as well did a good amount. It did eat the Mana Void, but it just was not enough damage, and game 2 going the way of CSW. And ultimately, in the draft, if they had picked up some form of control or a silence, that puck that I mentioned, I feel that MiTH could have had a much smoother game, but still. This is going to be a long evening of casting. I believe we have more on the way, don't we?
Definitely. Well, coming up next, we should have MiNESky versus DG. If you want to stick around for those, or there's plenty other Dota 2 Asian Championships games going on at the same time, mostly covered by Beyond the Summit and through all 3 of their channels. So thanks for joining us here on HeflaTV. If you like the casting, you can follow me at GrandSV and Blackadder at Mr. Blackadder at Twitter, and for the casting label as a whole, HeflaTVs, where you can find us on Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook, pretty much everywhere. The VODs will be uploaded to youtube.com/HeflaMoke if you want to watch them in the future. For now, that'll be it, but we will see you in just a couple minutes when we have the MiNESky versus DG game going on.